I was thinking about home ownership the other day. There's this very specific dread that comes with it. It's not the mortgage. It's not mowing the lawn.
I think I know where you're going with this.
It's that moment. You're in the shower. You're covered in soap. Maybe you're even singing. And then suddenly the water drops from, tropical paradise to Arctic blast in about 3 seconds.
The absolute betrayal of the water heater.
Exactly. It is the single most ignored appliance in the entire house. It just sits in a dark corner of the basement, covered in dust, doing its job until it doesn't.
Right.
And then suddenly it's the most important object in your entire universe.
It's funny, we treat it like this magic box. Cold water goes in, hot water comes out, and we really don't want to know what happens in between.
We don't.
But the reality is that ignored appliance is usually the second largest energy hog in your home.
Wait, second.
Right behind your heating and cooling system. It's just sitting there glowing red hot inside, keeping 50 gallons of water ready for a shower at 3 a.m. when no one's even awake. It's just burning money.
Yeah. And the tech, it really hasn't changed all that much, has it? The water heater my parents had looks exactly like the one I have now. It's just a big metal cylinder.
Precisely. For decades, it's basically been a giant, inefficient electric kettle. But that's why we're here today. We're doing a deep dive into a technology that is, well, it's actually shifting that whole paradigm.
A total rethink.
A total rethink. We're talking about the hybrid water heater, or as it's sometimes called, the heat pump water heater.
And looking at the research for this, the claims are pretty aggressive. We're not just talking about saving a few pennies here and there. We're talking about slashing energy bills, smart features. It's a completely different machine.
Yeah, it really sits at this intersection of, like, physics and home economics.
So here's our mission. We're going to unpack the mechanics, how this thing actually works, because it's weirdly fascinating. Then the real-world economics, is that high price tag actually worth it?
The sticker shock is real.
And finally, and this is the part I'm most interested in, we're going to cover the gotchas. The stuff about installation that most people miss.
Definitely. There are some physics constraints you just have to respect or you're going to have a bad time.
Okay, so let's kick it off with that name. Hybrid. When I hear that word, my brain immediately goes to a Prius. Is that a fair comparison to make?
It's actually the perfect mental model to start with. Think about it. A hybrid car has a gas engine for power. Right.
Right, for acceleration.
But it also has an electric motor for efficiency, for just cruising around town. It intelligently switches between them to optimize performance.
Okay, makes sense.
A hybrid water heater is doing the exact same thing, but for your plumbing. It combines the traditional tech we all know, those electric resistance elements, which are basically giant toaster coils in the tank.
The power-hungry part.
Exactly. It combines that with something called a heat pump. And the heat pump, that's your efficiency engine. That's the electric motor.
So let's get into the how of that. Because the source material said this thing doesn't make heat, it moves heat. That sounds like a riddle. How do you heat water to 120 degrees without actually making any heat?
This is the part that it breaks people's brains a little bit. To get it, you have to stop thinking about a kettle and start thinking about your refrigerator.
The refrigerator. But that makes things cold.
Right, but think about how it makes things cold. A fridge doesn't create coldness. It works by pulling the heat out of your food and dumping that heat into your kitchen.
That's why the back of the fridge is always warm. It's exhaust.
Exactly. It's just extracting and moving thermal energy. Now, imagine taking that whole mechanism, flipping it inside out, and putting it on top of a water tank.
Okay.
A hybrid water heater has a fan that pulls in the air from it's in your basement, your garage. It then uses a refrigerant cycle to basically wring the warmth out of that air, concentrate it, and pump it directly into the water.
So it's literally scavenging heat that's just floating around in the air.
It is harvesting ambient energy. And this brings us to the most important metric in this entire deep dive. It's called the COP, or coefficient of performance.
I saw that in the notes. Break that down, because usually efficiency is just a percentage, right?
Right. So a standard electric water heater is considered 100% efficient. That sounds great, can't beat 100%. But in physics, that just means for every $1 of electricity you put in, you get $1 worth of heat out. It's a one-to-one conversion.
Okay, I'm with you.
But because a heat pump isn't creating heat, it's just moving it, it can have a coefficient of performance of 3 or even 4.
Whoa, wait.
That means for every $1 of electricity you use to run the fan and compressor, you are moving $3 or $4 worth of heat into the water.
So You're getting more out than you're putting in. That sounds like it breaks the laws of physics or something.
In terms of heat energy delivered, yeah. Because you aren't paying to create the heat. You're only paying for the work of moving it. You're
Right.
leveraging the energy that's already in the air.
That is the aha moment. Standard heaters make heat. Hybrids, they steal it.
Thermal larceny. I like that. That's exactly what it is. You are stealing heat from the surrounding air.
But, and there's always a but, if it's that good, why do we even need the hybrid part? Why not just have the heat pump?
Because moving heat while it's super efficient is, well, it's slow. It's a gentle process.
Slow like. Am I going to run out of hot water in my shower?
If it's just you, no problem.
Yeah.
But let's imagine the Thanksgiving scenario. You got a house full of guests, the dishwasher's running, someone's showering upstairs, someone else decides to take a shower downstairs. You were just gulping hot water out of that tank.
Faster than the heat pump can replace it.
Exactly. The heat pump is sipping and you're chugging,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where the hybrid part saves you. The unit's little computer brain sees the water temperature dropping too fast. It realizes the heat pump is losing the battle, and click it, fires up those old school electric resistance coils.
Ah, the backup system.
It's the safety net. You burn more electricity for a few minutes to catch up, but nobody gets a cold shower.
Okay, so you prioritize efficiency, but you've always got the raw power on standby when you need it.
You got it. And that actually transitions us perfectly to the day-to-day experience, because unlike that old metal cylinder, these units are actually pretty sophisticated little computers.
Yeah, I was reading about the different modes. I'm used to a water heater just being on, but this sounds like you actually get to control how it works.
You do. And honestly, if you buy one of these and you don't mess with the modes, you're just throwing money away. The sources break it down into about 4 main settings.
Let's unpack them. What's the one most people will use?
That's going to be hybrid or auto mode. This is the set it and forget it setting. It uses the heat pump as much as possible to save you money, but if it senses a high demand,
Thanksgiving scenario.
it automatically brings in those electric coils to help out. It's the best balance of savings and household peace.
Okay, that makes sense. But what if I want to go like max efficiency?
Then you switch it to efficiency or heat pump only mode. In this mode, the unit flat out refuses to use the backup coils. They're locked out. It's 100% heat pump.
So maximum savings.
Maximum savings for sure. But, and this is a big but, the recovery time is really long. If you drain that tank, you're talking hours to heat it back up, not minutes.
So that's probably not the mode for a family with 3 teenagers who all play soccer.
Absolutely not. That's a recipe for a family riot. For that, you'd use the opposite, electric or high demand mode.
Which does what?
It basically turns the heat pump off and runs it like a traditional old school electric water heater. It's the least efficient mode by far, but it gives you the absolute fastest recovery time.
I could see using that if, the in-laws are visiting for a weekend and you just don't want to hear any complaints.
Exactly. And the last one is vacation mode, which I think is just brilliant.
Yeah.
It just puts the unit to sleep. It drops the temperature down to maybe 60 degrees just to prevent freezing, so you're not paying to keep water hot for an empty house.
That is smart. And speaking of smart, we should touch on the Wi-Fi thing, right? Because my toaster doesn't need Wi-Fi, but apparently my water heater does.
It sounds like a gimmick, I know.
Hey.
Why do I need to text my water heater? But a lot of these connect to apps, and there is one feature that makes it all worth it. Leak detection.
Oh, right. Because normally the way you detect a leak is your socks get wet when you walk into the basement.
And by then it's too late. You've got mold, ruined drywall, disaster. These units have sensors at the base. If they detect water, bang, you get an alert on your phone. Some even have a valve that will automatically shut off the water supply.
That alone is serious peace of mind. Okay, so the tech is cool, the mechanics make sense, but we have to talk about the elephant in the room. The price.
The sticker shock.
I mean, we're looking at the numbers. You can go buy a standard electric tank for maybe $500, $600. These hybrids, they're listed at $2,000 to $3,000, and that's before installation. That's a huge jump.
It is. And if you're standing in that aisle looking at 2 white cylinders that look pretty much the same, and one cost 4 times as much, it's a very hard check to write.
So do the math for us. Why on earth is this worth it?
This is where you have to shift from purchase price to total cost of ownership. And the Energy Star stats are, well, they're a total game changer. For a typical family of 4, the annual savings on your electric bill is around $550.
Wait, $550 a year? That's what, almost $50 a month? That's a streaming subscription and a couple of pizzas.
It's real money. And when you stretch that out over the life of the unit, say 10 to 15 years, you're looking at lifetime savings between $3,000 and almost $6,000.
So even if it costs $2,000 more up front, you more than make that back.
The payback period, the time it takes for the savings to cover that extra cost, is usually between 3 to 7 years. After that, it's just pure profit in your pocket.
And that's not even counting the coupons, right?
Yeah.
The incentives.
Correct. You cannot ignore the incentives. The government, both federal and local, really wants people to buy these because they reduce strain on the power grid.
How much can you save?
Between the federal tax credits from the Inflation Reduction Act and local utility rebates, we've seen cases where that price difference almost completely disappears.
That's incredible. Why do the utility companies care so much?
It's all about peak load. If everyone gets home and turns on their old power-hungry water heaters at 6 p.m., the grid gets hammered. It's cheaper for them to give you a rebate than it is for them to build a whole new power plant.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, but we have to pump the brakes a little.
Uh-oh.
The money sounds great. But this is where we hit the gotchas, the installation reality. You can't just shove this thing in a tiny closet and call it a day, can you?
No. And this is probably the most critical part of this deep dive for anyone listening. Remember how we said it works like a fridge pulling heat from the air?
Right.
Well, what happens if you put a fridge in a tiny airtight box?
It would. Well, the box would get really hot from the exhaust, but this thing does the opposite. It would turn the closet into a freezer.
Precisely. If you put a hybrid heater in a small closet, it will suck all the heat out of that space until the air is freezing. And then it has no more heat left to harvest. The efficiency plummets to zero. The unit basically suffocates.
So you can't just do a one-for-one swap into the same tight spot.
Not without some changes. The spec sheets all say you need about 1,000 cubic feet of air volume for it to breathe.
Can you visualize that for us? What is 1,000 cubic feet?
Think of a room that's maybe 10 by 12 feet with a normal ceiling. A small bedroom, a big utility room, a two-car garage. It needs that much air to draw from.
So if your water heater is in a tiny hallway closet, you're out of luck.
Not necessarily, but you need to get creative. You might have to install louvered doors, the ones with the slats, to let air circulate, but you can't just close a solid door on it and walk away.
Okay, gotcha number one. Space. What's next?
Noise.
Noise. My water heater is silent.
A standard one is. But this has a compressor and a fan. It hums. Think of the sound a dehumidifier makes, or a window air conditioner. About 50 decibels.
That's not deafening, but...
If it's in a closet, right next to your bedroom wall, you're going to hear it kick on in the middle of the night. That's a detail that gets left out of the brochures.
Good to know. And there was one more installation headache, right? The waste product.
Condensate. It's just physics. When you cool air down, moisture comes out of it. This machine produces water, sometimes gallons a day if it's humid.
And that water has to go somewhere.
Exactly. You have to have a drain line. If there's no floor drain nearby, you've got a problem. You might need to install a little condensate pump to get the water over to a sink. It's an extra cost, an extra step.
Space, noise, and plumbing. It's definitely more complicated than just hooking up two pipes.
It is. But let's talk about where you put it, because this brings up the idea of synergy. That cold air it blows out can be a good thing or a bad thing.
Right. If I'm in a cold climate and I put this in my basement in winter, isn't it just fighting my furnace?
That's the question, isn't it? And yes, it is stealing heat that your furnace just paid to create. You're robbing Peter to pay Paul.
So does that cancel out all the savings?
Surprisingly, usually not. Because the heat pump is so ridiculously efficient, remember that 300 to 400% copy. It's still cheaper to run it and make your furnace work a tiny bit harder. But your basement will be colder.
But if you flip that, what about a warm climate? Florida, Arizona.
Oh, in the South, this technology is absolute magic. You put this in a hot garage, and it's essentially free air conditioning. It takes that sweltering heat, uses it to make hot water for free, and blows out cool, dry air as a bonus. It's a win-win-win.
So it's a no-brainer there.
Absolutely. Even in the North, there's a synergy strategy. People often put their water heater right next to their furnace, and furnaces bleed waste heat.
Right, the utility room is always warm.
The hybrid water heater just eats that waste heat. It captures that lost energy, puts it in your water, and cools the room down. It creates this little thermal ecosystem in your basement.
I love that. Nothing is wasted. Okay, so let's bring this all in for a landing.
Let's do it.
First, the mechanics. It's a fridge in reverse. It moves heat instead of making it, which is way, way cheaper.
Thermal larceny.
Second, the user experience. It's smart. You've got modes for every situation and apps that can save you from a flood.
And then all-important backup systems so you never get a cold shower on Thanksgiving.
Third, the money. It's expensive up front, no doubt, But the savings are huge. We're talking $550 a year, paying for itself in under 5 years in a lot of cases.
Especially if you grab those rebates.
And finally, the reality check. It needs room to breathe, it makes a little noise, and you need a plan for the water it produces.
Correct.
So, the verdict. If you're a listener with a 10 or 12-year-old electric water heater that's starting to look a little crusty, is this the move?
Yeah. If you have the space, and as that's a big qualifier, if you have the space and a drain, it is absolutely the smartest upgrade you can make to your home. The math just works. You're replacing a dumb energy hog with a smart device that lowers your carbon footprint and literally puts cash back in your pocket.
It really feels like the era of the dumb magic hot box is finally over.
It's about time.
You know, before we go, I want to leave everyone with a final thought based on what you said about the ecosystem.
Let's hear it.
We tend to think of our appliances as these isolated boxes, right? The fridge is over here, the washer's over there. But this technology really challenges us to see the connections. The water heater cools the air, which dehumidifies the basement, which feeds off the furnace's waste heat.
That connects all the dots.
Exactly. And it makes me think we should ask a new question when we buy an appliance. Not just what does it do, but we should ask, is this appliance just consuming energy in my house, or is it working with my house?
Is it a parasite or is it a partner?
I love that. I'm going to be eyeing my toaster very suspiciously tonight. Are you a parasite?
As you should.
Well, there you have it. The secret life of the hybrid water heater. Hopefully, the next time you walk past that big metal tank, you'll give it a little nod of respect or maybe start plotting its replacement. Thanks for diving in with us. Stay curious.